this down. Let's go to invited Russian help. Mr. Durham, you're aware of Donald Trump's public statements along the lines of, hey, Russia, if you're listening, hack Hillary's emails, you'll be richly rewarded by the press. You aware of that?
I'm aware of that.
And are you aware that Mueller found that hours after he made that plea for Russian help, the Russians, in fact, tried to hack one of the email servers affiliated with the Clinton campaigner family?
If that happened, I'm not aware of that. I mean, could very well.
You're not aware of that in the Mueller report? So when you say you're not aware of evidence of collusion in the Mueller report, it's because you apparently haven't read the Mueller report very well. If you're not aware of that fact.
That was Democratic Congress member Adam Schiff, and I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network, trying to distract from Donald Trump's indictment and arraignment for withholding very sensitive national defense information, as well as his obstruction of justice. The MAGA Republicans in the House of Representatives Judiciary Committee, chaired by MAGA Republican Jim Jordan, who is not a licensed lawyer, held a hearing today parading in John Durham, the special counsel appointed by Bill Barr in October of 2020, and before that serving as a prosecutor for Bill Barr, investigating the origins of the Russia investigation relating to potential collusion between the Trump campaign, the Trump administration, and Russia. You know, like where Donald Trump's campaign manager, Paul Manafort, was funneling campaign information to the Russians. You know, where Don Jr. took meetings with people he believed were Russian intelligence to try to get dirt on Hillary Clinton. You know, where Donald Trump said, Russia, 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 if you are listening, hack the emails of my political opponents, hack the DNC emails, and lo and behold, Russia did that and then gave the documents to press outlets to spread that would otherwise be damaging to Donald Trump's political opponents. But the MAGA Republicans believe that is all a hoax, and Bill Barr appointed John Durham with the role of trying to undermine those incontrovertible facts. So today at the Judiciary Committee hearing, the MAGA Republican conspiracies got smacked down by reality, by real prosecutors, by real intelligent Democrats on the Judiciary Committee who cross-examined John Durham brilliantly and showed that John Durham conducted a completely biased and completely weaponized investigation at the behest of Bill Barr and Donald Trump. I mean, even Donald Trump's biggest supporters in the legal field, like Jonathan Turley, for example, I'll play you this clip in a little bit, said, wow, they did not prepare John Durham for that. So let's go through some of the other clips right now. This is Congressmember Adam Schiff cross-examining John Durham, another clip, and things start getting brutal where it becomes very, very clear that John Durham probably never even read the Mueller report, and Durham claims that he's not even really aware that the Russians released stolen emails. Play this clip.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you read what's in the cable and what's in the report, is that what the diplomats reported was there was a suggestion of a suggestion that the Russians could help. They had damaging information as to Mrs. Clinton. And
by releasing it anonymously, right? And that's exactly what happened, isn't it?
I don't.
You really don't know?
I'm not sure exactly. When you say exactly what happened.
Well, the Russians released stolen emails through cutouts, did they not?
There were emails.
It's a very simple question. Did they release information, stolen information through cutouts, yes or no?
Yeah, I'm not sure that.
You really don't know the answer to that? The answer is yes, they did. Through DC League's.
Well, in your mind, it's yes.
Well, Mueller's answer was yes. More important than mine, Mueller's answer was yes. Now, that information, of course, was helpful to the Trump campaign, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question, but that the Russians intruded into, hacked into the systems, they released information.
And that was helpful to the Trump campaign, right?
And the conclusion in the ICA and in the Mueller investigation was that the Russians intended to assist.
Can you answer my question, Mr. Durham? That was helpful to the Trump campaign, right?
Yeah, that's
And Trump made use of that, as I said, didn't he, by touting those stolen documents on the campaign trail over 100 times?
I said, I don't really read the newspapers or listen to the news. I don't
Really,
find all that reliable, so I don't know that.
Mr. Durham, were you totally oblivious to Donald Trump's use of the stolen emails on the campaign trail more than 100 times? Did that escape your attention?
I am not aware of that.
In this next clip, Congressmember Adam Schiff exposes John Durham for circumventing federal court orders. Play this clip.
Mr. Durham, did you seek communications pertaining to someone named Mr. Bernard from a federal district judge?
I'm not, assuming that prosecutors go to judges for certain kinds of orders, they are typically sealed proceedings. I'm not speaking.
Did you seek an order
direct to your
to
question, but I'm not going to comment on anything that I believe is under seal.
Did you seek a court order to obtain personal communications pertaining to Mr. Bernard?
I'm not going to speak beyond the report on that point, and I'm not going to violate any sealing orders.
I don't think it violates any sealing orders to tell us if you sought personal communications by court order. Did you?
Again, it's beyond the report.
Well, let's not even
Subject
make it
to sealing
specific to a
orders.
person. Did you seek court orders to obtain particular records, and were you denied by the judge?
I think the question is, intended
The
to
question is
suggest
what
that I don't want to
question is what
disclose something I'm
The question is what I
uncomfortable
asked you, Mr. Durham.
Yeah.
You get to give the answer, not the question. The question is, did you seek a court order to get records from a judge pertaining to private communications, and were you turned down by the judge for lack of a sufficient basis?
with. And I've told you
Yes
that
or no?
It's beyond the report. I don't think I'm authorized to talk about it, and I'm not going to violate
It's
any
not beyond the
sealing orders.
report. It's not beyond the report.
You see anything in the report about that?
Yes. Did you seek an order, and were you turned down? And then did you seek to go around the court order by going to the grand jury?
No. You like to know what that was about?
What I would like to know, Mr. Durham, is did Mrs. Danahy, who resigned from your team, raise ethical concerns about your trying to go around the court order?
To my knowledge, no.
Then why did she leave?
I told you before, previously, that I have the highest regard for Ms. Danahy. Ms. Danahy and I are friends. Ms. Danahy, like everybody...
You know why she left, right?
I'm not
You do
sure
know the
why
answer
she
to the
left.
question. You know why she left, right?
Time of the gentleman has expired.
Here, Congressman Adam Schiff is questioning John Durham and says, really, you believe that it is normal for the son of a presidential candidate to get calls all the time from foreign adversaries offering dirt about political opponents? Seriously? Play this clip.
That Don Jr. was informed that a Russian official was offering the Trump campaign, quote, very high-level and sensitive information, unquote, that would be incriminating if Hillary Clinton was part of, quote, Russia and its government support of Mr. Trump? Are you aware of that?
Sure, people get phone calls all the time from individuals who claim to have information like that.
Really, the son of a presidential candidate gets calls all the time from a foreign government offering dirt on their opponent? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think this is unique in your experience.
So you have other instances of the Russian government offering dirt on a presidential candidate to the presidential candidate's son. Is that what you're saying?
Would you repeat the question?
You said that it's not uncommon to get offers of help from a hostile foreign government in a presidential campaign directed at the president's son. You really stand by that, Mr. Durham?
I'm saying that people can make phone calls making claims all the time that you may have experienced.
Are you really trying to diminish the significance of what happened here and the secret meeting that the president's son set up in Trump Tower to receive that incriminating information? Are you trying to diminish the significance of that, Mr. Durham?
I'm not trying to diminish it at all, but I think the more complete story is that they met and it was a ruse and they didn't talk about Mrs. Clinton.
And you think it's insignificant that he had a secret meeting with a Russian delegation for the purpose of getting dirt on Hillary Clinton, and the only disappointment expressed in that meeting was that the dirt they got wasn't better. You don't think that's significant?
I don't think that that was a well-advised thing to do.
Not well advised.
All right.
Well, that's the understatement of the year. So you think it's perfectly appropriate or maybe just ill-advised for a presidential campaign to secretly meet with a Russian delegation to get dirt on their opponent? You would merely say that's inadvisable?
Yeah, if you're asking me would I do it, I hope I wouldn't do it. But it was not illegal. It was stupid, foolish, ill-advised.
Well, it is illegal to conspire to get incriminating opposition research from a hostile government that is of financial value to a campaign. Wouldn't that violate campaign laws?
I don't know all those facts to be true.
And now let's take a quick break to talk about our next partner, Fume. Cold turkey, it may be great on sandwiches, but there's a better way to break your bad habits. We're not talking about some weird mind voodoo from your wacky neighbor or some sketchy message board. We're talking about our sponsor, Fume, and they look at the problem in a different way. Now, not everything in a bad habit is wrong. So instead of drastic, uncomfortable change, why not just remove the bad from your habit? Fume is an innovative, award-nominated device that does just that. Instead of electronics, Fume is completely natural. Instead of vapor, Fume uses flavored air. And instead of harmful chemicals, Fume uses all natural, delicious flavors. You get it. Instead of bad, Fume is good. It's a habit you're free to enjoy and makes replacing your bad habit easy. Your Fume comes with an adjustable airflow dial and is designed with movable parts and magnets for fidgeting, giving your fingers a lot to do, which is helpful for de-stressing and anxiety while breaking your habit. The first time I used Fume, I was shocked at how flavorful and fresh it tasted. Now, it's easy to hold and perfectly balanced and quite honestly, extremely fun to fidget with. The real wood material and sleek design definitely classes it up, and I feel pretty darn cool holding it. Stopping is something we all put off because it's hard, but switching to Fume is easy, enjoyable, and even fun. Fume has served over 100,000 customers and has thousands of success stories, and there's no reason that can't be you. Join Fume in accelerating humanity's breakup from destructive habits by picking up the Journey Pack today. Head to tryfume.com and use code Meidas to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com and use code Meidas to save an additional 10% off your order today.
Here, Congressmember Adam Schiff exposes John Durham for violating Department of Justice's clear policies by interfering with the Department of Justice Inspector General Michael Horowitz's report back in 2019 into the origins of the Russia investigation, because Horowitz and the DOJ Inspector General found that there was no anti-Trump plot here, and by and large, the FBI did every single thing correctly. And in real time in 2019, Durham sought to undermine the Inspector General's report by publicly talking about his investigation, which is against DOJ policy. Play this clip.
Mr. Durham, DOJ policy provides that you don't speak about a pending investigation, and yet you did, didn't you?
I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to.
When the Inspector General issued a report saying that the investigation was properly predicated, you spoke out in violation of Department of Justice policy to criticize the Inspector General's conclusions, didn't you?
I issued a public statement. I didn't do it anonymously. I didn't do it through third persons.
But nonetheless, you violated department policy by issuing a statement while your investigation was ongoing, didn't you?
I don't know that. If I did, then I did, but I was not aware that I was violating some policy.
And you also sought to get the Inspector General to change his conclusion, did you not? When he was concluding that the investigation was properly predicated, did you privately seek to intervene to change that conclusion?
This is outside the scope of the report, but if you want to go there, we asked the Inspector General to take a look at the intelligence that's included in the classified appendix that you looked at, and said that that ought to affect portions of his report.
And you thought it was appropriate for you to intervene with an independent investigation by the Inspector General because he was reaching a conclusion you disagreed with. You thought that was appropriate.
That's not, the premise isn't right. The Inspector General circulated a draft memo to a number of agencies and persons. Our group was one of them. We were asked to review that draft and bring to his attention any concerns that we had or disagreements.
And when he
Time of the gentleman-
refused
time of
to
the
change
gentleman
his,
has-
when
time of the
he
gentleman has
refused to
expired.
change his report,
Time of the gentleman's
you
expired.
violated
Mr. Chairman, I
policy.
insist on regular order.
Well, it's not even his time. It's Ms. Lofgren's time. So the gentleman yields back to Ms. Lofgren, who's not.
And this was a common refrain that John Durham refused to answer. And you'll see Congressmember Adam Schiff is asking, why did she resign? Referring to Nora Donahue. Why did Nora Donahue, who was an assistant United States attorney, who was working with John Durham, why did this prosecutor who was on your team, who's known as a by-the-book prosecutor, why did she resign? We all know the answer. We know why she resigned. She resigned because she felt that John Durham and this whole investigation was ethically compromised, and she did not want to be a part of anything having to do with Durham. But of course, Durham, he's out there, again, fumbling, mumbling, and here's what happens. Play this clip.
I recall.
Thank you.
Gentleman yields back. Gentlelady from Florida is recognized.
Good morning, Mr.
Can I
Durham.
just complete that answer, Warren? But I don't want to lay any blame at their part. I made that decision to make a statement. They were not involved in it. Nora Donahue.
Gentlelady from Florida.
Right. Nora Donahue, a friend of mine, a very good lawyer, an honest person.
Why did she resign?
That's Nora Donahue. That's why we brought her on.
Why did she resign?
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman
Answer the question if you'd like.
Mr. Chairman, who's in charge here? Because it's not Mr. Schiff, I don't think.
It's the lady's time from Florida.
Good morning.
Now to Democratic Congressmember Jerry Nadler, who's like, you lost every case. All of the trials that you brought, you lost. Play the clip.
It's not correct.
No, I mean, there were multiple parts of that.
Did it take 4 years to complete?
Correct.
Okay. And with all these resources and all these people you were sent to help you investigate the investigators, you only filed 3 criminal cases. You only brought 2 cases to trial, correct?
Correct.
And you lost all the cases you brought to trial, correct?
Correct.
In fact, 2 juries acquitted your defendants on all charges. And the one conviction that you obtained, the defendant pleaded guilty to a single count that never went to trial, correct?
Correct.
I will note that in that case, the primary investigative steps were all completed by Inspector General Horowitz. Perhaps you were better when it came to your report. From my reading, your report did not make any specific concrete recommendations to improve DOJ or FBI policies or procedures. In fact, your report repeatedly references the recommendations made by Inspector General Horowitz, almost all of which DOJ and FBI have already implemented. Again, your investigation lasted 4 years. 4 years and untold sums of money, and you still obtained only 1 conviction. You did produce a 300-page report, though, and that's given my Republican counterparts plenty of material to spin.
Congressmember Eric Swalwell with a similar message. He goes, let's compare the Mueller success in their criminal prosecutions with yours. Both of the trials that you had, you lost. You completely lost. Play this clip.
Blocked from doing it. That's correct?
That's correct.
I also want to compare you to the last major special counsel investigation that we had. You agree Special Counsel Mueller charged dozens of individuals and you indicted 3. Is that correct?
Indicted 2 and a third pleaded guilty.
Right. And Special Counsel Mueller had dozens of convictions, some at trial, but no defendant was outright acquitted. Is that right in the Mueller investigation? Outright acquitted. Across the board, every charge acquitted.
Right. I don't believe there are any acquittals. I'm not sure there were dozens of convictions. There were dozens of, more than a dozen people who were indicted.
You were wise.
Here, Congressmember Eric Swalwell, Democrat, also wants to flag the extreme bias that Durham had, and the fact that Durham was traveling overseas and sending text messages to Bill Barr. And what Swalwell makes clear is Merrick Garland wasn't traveling with you. Merrick Garland wasn't sending you text messages. Play this clip.
Talk a little bit more about the independence of a special counsel and just clarify. You did send multiple texts to the Attorney General after you were appointed as special counsel. Did you ever text message with Attorney General Garland once he took over as Attorney General?
No, Attorney General Garland had me communicate through the principal Deputy Attorney General, Mr. Weinsheimer.
Did you ever travel overseas with Attorney General Garland?
No.
And,
I met with the Attorney General, but I didn't travel overseas with him.
and President Biden, through the Attorney General, could have had you removed, fired. Is that right?
I'm sure he could have.
And you stayed on.
I completed my term as special counsel.
And as I reflect on that clip, can you imagine if Special Counsel Jack Smith and Merrick Garland were taking trips together overseas and just hanging out and smoking cigars like Bill Barr and John Durham were? It's absurd. Here is Democratic Congressmember Ted Lieu telling it like it is. Play the clip.
Now, Mr. Durham, I'd like to ask you the following simple yes or no questions. Trump's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, was convicted, correct?
I'm sorry, could you just repeat that one?
Trump's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, was convicted, correct?
That's correct. Not
Trump's
in connection
former
with
foreign
these
policy
matters.
advisor to the campaign, George Papadopoulos, was convicted, correct?
That's correct.
Trump's former deputy campaign manager, Rick Gates, was convicted, correct?
Not in connection with the Russian matter.
All right. Mr. Durham, you can hold yourself out as an objective Department of Justice official or as a partisan hack, and the more that you try to spin the facts and not answer my questions, you sound like the latter. So I'm just going to ask this simply. Trump's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn, was convicted, correct?
That's correct.
Trump's longtime advisor, Roger Stone, was convicted, correct?
I'm sorry, missed the last thing you
Trump's
mentioned?
longtime advisor, Roger Stone, was convicted, correct?
Correct.
In contrast to multiple Trump associates who were convicted, you brought two cases jury trial based on this investigation, and you lost both. And so I don't actually know what we're doing here, because the author of the Durham report concedes that the FBI had enough information to investigate. And thank goodness the FBI did, because multiple Trump associates who committed crimes were held accountable. And the best way to summarize what happened is thank you to the brave men and women of the FBI for doing their jobs. I yield back.
And finally, here is Democratic Congressmember Hank Johnson with a great cross-exam. Play this clip.
And the other two men you prosecuted went to trial on the charges, charging they were accused of lying to the FBI, and both were slam dunk acquitted. Isn't that correct?
They were acquitted.
And none of the individuals you prosecuted were ever charged with being part of a hoax or a fraud or a witch hunt or a politically motivated deep state conspiracy against Donald Trump. Isn't that correct?
I would not say that that's accurate.
You mean you did charge somebody with being a part of a hoax?
We charged Mr. Sussman with having knowingly provided false information to the FBI regarding Alpha Bank.
But he
and
was acquitted though, right? After
well, that wasn't your question.
Mr. Sussman was acquitted after you charged him, correct?
Grand jury found
he was found innocent by a jury of by a unanimous jury of 12.
That's not true.
Well,
what's true is the grand jury found probable cause to indict Mr. Sussman.
A jury of his peers acquitted him, though, correct?
And a trial jury.
You're not going to disagree on that, are you, Mr. Durham?
I'm going to try to answer your question as it was asked.
Well, let me ask you this, because in your...
And as I mentioned at the outset of the video, here is a clip of the MAGA Republican lawyer propagandist Jonathan Turley. Even Jonathan Turley says they did not prepare John Durham for this. Play this clip.
I think anything prepared him for this moment. He looks about as comfortable as a Benedictine monk in a strip club. I mean, he has this look of disbelief on his face as he says, look, I reported the facts. You can reach your own conclusions.
You know, when this came up during the questioning of John Durham by Adam Schiff, I just want to flag it for you here, because John Durham and Republicans don't want you to remember this, that on June 3rd, 2016 at 10:36 a.m., Rob Goldstone wrote to Don Jr., "This is obviously very high level and sensitive information, but is part of Russia and its government's support for Mr. Trump." On June 3rd, 2016, at 10:53 a.m., Donald Trump Jr. wrote, "Seems we have some time, and if it's what you say, I love it. I love it, especially later in the summer. Could we do a call first thing next week when I am back?" This is who these people are. You know, and this is why I don't need large media networks to gaslight us. We don't need that, because when Donald Trump says Russia, 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 if you're listening, do something for me, and they do it, we don't have to overcomplicate the matter. Okay, we know that that is unlawful. When we see that Donald Trump's inner circle are all either pleading guilty or being convicted by juries for their connections to Russia, we don't need to be gaslit. We know what that means. When we have emails of Don Jr. saying, if it's what you say it is, that Russia wants to interfere, let's set up a meeting. I love it. And then he sets up the meeting and has the meeting to get the information. We don't need to be gaslit, okay? And what I loved in that hearing is that you had smart, competent Democrats like Adam Schiff, who's a former prosecutor, who's a former assistant United States attorney who worked for the DOJ, showing you what a real cross-exam looks like. Eric Swalwell, former prosecutor, showing you what a cross-exam looks like. And all the other Democrats in that video showing you what a great cross-exam looks like. But it's about the truth. It's about the facts. And the fact that you have a modern day Republican Party talking about wanting to protect Russian oligarchs who are trying to spread disinformation, it's upside down world. And we've got to call it out at all times because this isn't a partisan thing. Okay, it shouldn't be. This should just be about our democracy, our love for our country, and common sense. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 1.5 million subscribers thanks to your awesome support. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch, and wherever you get audio podcasts, subscribe to the MeidasTouch podcast. Have a great day.
Hey, Midas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.